How's everybody? Yes, I chimed in a little late. Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Bible Study with Dr. Irie. I am so glad you joined me this evening. Let me know who you are, and I would love to give you a shout out. Hey, South Girl, how you doing, sis? Glad you joined me. I am simultaneously Amanda, how you doing? Welcome to Real Talk Bible Study with Dr. Irie. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Bible Study with Dr. Irie. I am simultaneously recording tonight's study on my camera. And hello. Hey, Michelle. How's everybody? Betty, how y'all doing? So glad you joined us. I'm simultaneously recording on my camera and on Periscope. Hey, how you doing? Good to see everybody tonight. Listen, I want to get right to it because I don't want to keep you long, but I want everybody to know, I don't know if I shared this with you earlier on Facebook, but our focus text is Matthew chapter 20, verses 20 through 23. There's more to that text, but we're just going to look at a little bit of it. So I'm going to go ahead and read Matthew chapter 20, verse 20 through 23. And I'm reading from the New Living Translation. Okay, the New Living Translation. And here's how it reads. Hey, Irie, love the subject matter tonight. Thanks, I'm so glad you joined. Here it goes. Matthew 20 through 23 from the New Living Translation. I like the New Living Translation. I have been tied to the New Revised Standard Version, but I can go back and forth between the NRSV and the NLT. So here's how it reads. Then the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons. She knelt respectfully to ask a favor. "What is your request?" he asked. She replied, "In your kingdom, please let my 2 sons sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left." But Jesus answered by saying to them, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink?" "Oh, yes," they replied, "we are able." Jesus told them, "Oh, you will indeed drink from my bitter cup. But I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. My Father has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen." Before we get into the meat of this text, I want you to repeat after me. I want you to say it out loud. I don't know where you are right now. You could be in McDonald's. You could be at Starbucks, wherever you are. You could be sitting at home. But I want you to repeat after me. Here we go. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to misunderstand. It's okay to love imperfectly. It's okay to be fully human. That's right. It's okay to be fully human. So, our topic tonight is, why are you scared to ask for what you want? So, let me see. So, you work on a job and you know you're underpaid. You're in a relationship and your partner isn't as attentive as you'd like them to be. Or what about this? You have friends and you have girlfriends or you have guy friends that you hang around with, but you seem to be the one who always makes the calls, who always organizes events, who always visits them, but they rarely visit you. And yet all of this is happening in your world, but you do not ask for what you want. You don't ask for what you really want and what you really need. You simply suffer in silence and get bitter and resentful. Why are you scared to ask for what you want? In tonight's text, boy, I love this passage. I actually taught a Bible study on this topic, on this text earlier today at church. And there are 2 passages of scripture, one in Mark where the sons, James and John, go directly to Jesus and they ask him this question about, when you get to your kingdom, let one of us sit on your right, let one of us sit on your left. All right. So in Mark, the writer of Mark has the sons asking the question, James and John, the brothers asking the question. But in Matthew's gospel, the writer of Matthew has the mother asking the question. Now, some scholars, from what I read, say that Matthew simply inserts the mother, that she may not have actually done it, but he used that as a literary device in his writing to prove a point. I'm not going to debate whether or not the mother was there because it really happened, or it was just a literary device. My point tonight is Matthew says this mother came and she asked Jesus this very critical question. Now, to some of you, that may not seem like a big deal that she asked this question. But what I want you to be clear about is, in that time, in first century Palestine, women, they were to be seen and not heard. Women had very little rights, few rights. They were considered property. They did not voice their opinions, their perspectives, and they certainly did not come and approach Jesus, who was a Jew, with such a question as this. Women were low on the totem pole. The only people lower than women on the totem pole were children. And so here we have this woman, a woman who was supposed to be quiet, a woman who is supposed to be silent, a woman who is not supposed to be assertive enough to ask for what she wants. And yet she approaches Jesus and she asks Jesus for something. Not necessarily, at least not on the surface, seeming like what she's asking is for herself, for her sons. Now, what is also interesting is that in this day, these boys, the sons of Zebedee, when you read Matthew chapter 4, when Jesus is going along the coast of Galilee and he is inviting followers, he runs upon these brothers, and their dad is a fisherman, and so they're helping him in the fishing business. So they weren't really poor people. They were sort of middle class, right? But they were not affluent. They were not wealthy. They had to struggle. They had to work hard to make ends meet. Sometimes they would catch a big haul of fish. Sometimes they would not. So they were like most of us, considered middle class. Many of us considered middle class. And they were in a time when the government, some of us might be able to relate to that, the government was rather controlling, rather domineering, rather developing a sense of the haves and the have-nots, and they were caught up in that kind of environment. And so here this mother, and they were followers of Jesus, which meant they were experiencing a certain amount of persecution, particularly when Jesus just got finished letting them know that he was going to be suffering and he was going to be crucified. So here this mother, who may have been following along with her sons and Jesus, hears that Jesus is going to be crucified, and so my boys are hanging out with him, so that makes them vulnerable too. Oh, wait a second. Here's what I want, Jesus. When you enter that kingdom that you're talking about, this is what I want to happen for my boys. I want my boys to be one on your right and one on the left. Now, this mother wanted her sons to come up, right? But if her sons came up, she was also coming up. Now, as I read and researched this text, there were some scholars and writers who say that this woman was out of line by asking this question, particularly when you read Jesus' response, right? Jesus says, this is not mine to give, right? That it's the Father who, decides who's sitting on the right, who's sitting on the left. And so they kind of paint a picture of this woman asking for something that she should not have been asking for. But I don't like that perspective, because what I have come to understand is that for people to be fully human and feel fully alive, we have got to have the freedom to ask for what we want. We have to have the courage to ask for what it is we want. Now, does that mean that because we asked for it, we will always get it? No. Somebody said in some homes we learned as little girls not to have needs, and that is not okay. That's right. Some of us have learned that. It's not to have needs. And if you do have needs, you certainly don't articulate them, right? You certainly don't speak them out loud, right? But this woman goes against all of that. And so she approaches Jesus, and Jesus invites her into conversation with him. Jesus said to her, "What is your request?" He didn't give a caveat and say, okay, you can ask me anything except these things. No. Jesus came to Jesus, and this woman came to Jesus and said, listen, Jesus, I need a favor. Jesus responded to her, what is your request? Jesus is asking her, what is it that you would like for me to do? What is it that you want, right? He invited her. He opened up the space for her to ask for what she wants. So why are people criticizing her for asking for what she wanted? Jesus invited her. Now, when we ask for what we want, we also have to be prepared for a no, or a not yet, or let me see. I have a daughter, she's 22 now. When she was younger, I always tried to create a space for her to be able to ask for what it was she wanted. I don't care what it was. Now, she didn't always get everything she wanted, but she knew that she has the freedom, and she still knows that she has the freedom to ask for what she wants. So why is it that some of us don't ask for what we want? We pretend that we're okay with the status quo. We pretend that we're content in our relationships when we're doing all the giving, we're doing all the tending, and we're not receiving anything back. We have been duped into thinking that we have to offer this sacrificial kind of love, which means it's unrequited, which means that don't expect or don't even want anything back. That is ludicrous, right? That is scared of rejection. Absolutely, we're scared of rejection. You know why we're scared of rejection? Because we look at rejection in an unhealthy way. That whole idea of rejection. Here we go. So if my daughter asks, Mom, listen, I want to go to Florida this summer. And I say, baby, I understand you wanting to go to Florida, but we just can't do it. I don't have the money, or I just don't feel like going, right? Now, it becomes a problem when my daughter sees my no as that we can't go somewhere as a rejection of her personhood. See, we are unable oftentimes to separate our humanity, our personhood, from someone's no. See, how many of you have had guys or girls or men or women that you liked, that you were attracted to, that you wanted to be in a relationship with, but for whatever reason, they weren't interested in being in a relationship with you, right? We can't separate them not wanting to be in a relationship with us from who we are as human beings. So because they don't want to be in a relationship with us, we interpret that as there's something wrong with me. We have to stop that. There is nothing wrong with us. Everyone has the right to what they want and what they like and what they don't want. And just because they don't want a relationship with you or me, it does not mean that we are inherently flawed individuals, right? It could mean they got bad taste. It could mean they have other things going on. It could mean that my personality just don't jive with theirs. And that's okay. We have to get to be okay with people's no, right? This woman, I believe, was okay with Jesus's, it ain't mine to give. But apparently an environment was created by Jesus whereby this woman felt comfortable enough to go to Jesus and ask for what she wanted. Beloved, I want to challenge you. Whatever it is that you want, whatever your heart's desire, I mean deep, deep down, ask. You know Jesus said, ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. Right? Have the courage to ask for what you want regardless of the consequences. I want to end with this little reading from one of the most famous popular social workers. Her name is Virginia Satir, S-A-T-I-R. And Virginia came up with these, what she calls the 5 freedoms of becoming fully human. The 5 freedoms of becoming fully human. She says every person who is to be healthy and fully alive or fully human must embrace or must believe or live out of a sense of having these 5 freedoms. It's scary to ask, but it can be liberating. Oh, absolutely. It can be liberating. Here's the first freedom that she says human beings must have in order to be fully human. That the freedom to see and hear what is here instead of what should be, was, or will be. Right? So the freedom to see and hear what is, to be in reality. The reality is, right now, I don't have a job. Now, I do have a job, but I'm just saying hypothetically. That I don't have a job. I got laid off, right? I got laid off. That's the reality, right? I cannot function if I'm consistently thinking, they shouldn't have laid me off, or I shouldn't have been laid off, or I should have worked harder, or I should have this, or I should have that. I want us to take the should out of our vocabulary. Take the shoulds out, right? So we've got to have the freedom to see and hear what is here, and not what should be. Number 2, we must have the freedom to say what we feel and think instead of what you should feel and think. So many people, haven't you been in situations, why should laid off someone else? I don't get that. You didn't finish the sentence. Okay. The freedom to say what you feel and think, right? So many people often, they'll have a feeling and then they'll say, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. But you do. You do feel this way. You're angry. You're hurt. You're sad. You feel wounded. You feel disturbed. You're frustrated. Whatever the feeling is, you've got to be free to express and to feel what it is you feel. And so if you are a friend of someone, the spouse of someone, the last thing you ever want to do is tell someone they shouldn't feel what they feel or they shouldn't think what they think. Right there, when you do that, you are setting up a brick wall between you and the person. That person cannot feel safe with you sharing their emotions because you're going to shoot them to death. All right? So that's number 2. Number 3, that humans have to have the freedom to feel what you feel instead of what you ought to feel. Right? You'll feel shut down. That's right. You'll feel shut down. You have the freedom to feel what you feel rather than what you ought to feel. Right? Don't tell me how I ought to feel. Don't tell me what I ought to be thinking. Because I ain't thinking that. I'm thinking what I think and I'm feeling how I feel. If you want to have communication with me, if you want to have connection with me, then let me think and let me feel what I think and feel, right? There is no right and wrong to a person's feelings. It is what we do with those feelings and what we do with those thoughts that become either good or negative, or positive or negative, right? But not having the thought. All right, here's number 4. Humans have to have the freedom to ask for what we want instead of always waiting for permission. Women, we fall in this category most often, I think. The freedom to ask for what we want instead of waiting for permission. I want and I need you to communicate better with me. I need whatever it is. We have to have, if you are in a relationship and you do not feel free to ask, feelings are neither right or wrong, they just are, absolutely. If you do not feel the freedom to ask for what you want, if you do not have the freedom in your relationship to express your thoughts and your feelings and your desires without getting pounced on, without someone belittling you, you're in an unhealthy relationship. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're in an unhealthy relationship. Finally, the 5th freedom from Virginia Satir is the freedom to take risks on your own behalf instead of choosing to only be secure. Take risks. You've got to have the freedom to do that. The freedom to take risks, to take a chance. Hey, what we read in the beginning, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to misunderstand. It's okay to love imperfectly. It's okay to be fully human. The woman in our text, the woman who went to Jesus and asked for what she wanted, was a woman, I believe, that was living out of these 5 freedoms. She felt free to say what she wanted. She felt free to think and feel however she thought and feel. And Jesus did not ridicule her for that. In fact, Jesus invited conversation. He invited her to tell him what she needed and what she wanted. That's what I hope for you. That's what I hope for myself. Let me tell you what I want. This is what I told the Bible study. Come close. And this is our little secret. Before this year's out, I want a date. Yeah, I want a date with a handsome, tall, good-looking brother. I want a date. So I'm putting it out there. And come on, just one date. I want a date. So it's out there. I've asked Jesus. That's what I want, Jesus. Your girl wants a date. Yeah. And we're going to see what happens. All right? Listen, I love you. God loves you more. I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight at Real Talk Bible Study with Dr. Irie, where we do our best to keep it relevant, relational, and real. Peace. Pow!